There are wounds that never bleed. There are cries that no human ear has ever heard. And there are battles that are fought quietly within the soul, where no applause follows and no recognition comes. These are the trials of the innocent, the faithful, the kind-hearted. These are the secret storms of those who carry pain not because they deserved it, but because they refused to become like those who caused it. Have you ever asked, why do they prosper while I suffer? Have you whispered into the dark, does anyone see what I'm going through? If so, know this, heaven has eyes that do not sleep. There is a God who not only hears what your mouth never spoke, but sees the injustice that your heart bore in silence. And when God sees, he moves. But not always when we expect, and rarely in ways we imagine. We live in a world that celebrates loud cruelty and mocks quiet injustice. The liars are believed, the manipulators are praised, and the ones who carry the burden of truth are often left alone in the cold. But Scripture tells us in Romans 12:19, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." That is not merely a promise, it is a divine declaration. God is not indifferent. He is not silent forever, and he is never late. He's just deliberate, precise, and when he acts, his justice humbles the proud and lifts the broken. You may not see the full measure of his justice yet, but that doesn't mean it hasn't begun. God's revenge doesn't always arrive with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it comes as a slow unraveling of everything the wicked once relied upon. The pride they wore like a crown begins to choke them. The peace they robbed from you now flees from them. The lies they built their lives on begin to collapse under their own weight. And all the while, God is doing something in you too. He's refining your soul, turning your pain into wisdom, your wounds into strength, your silence into testimony. And isn't it divine that the very ones who broke you with their words are now silenced by your endurance? That the ones who mocked your tears can't escape their own restless nights? The irony of God's justice is that it returns not just what was given, but it multiplies it. Each tear repaid, each betrayal reversed, each loss restored in a way only God could orchestrate. But why does God wait? Why doesn't he strike instantly when we cry out? Because vengeance, in its highest form, is not an explosion, it is a revelation. It reveals the truth of every heart. It exposes motives. It separates the guilty from the innocent not by force, but by allowing the fruit of every action to ripen. By their fruit you will know them, says Matthew 7:16. And oh, how God allows their fruit to ripen in full view. And while he works in silence, preparing both justice and restoration, he leaves behind signs, not to boast, but to comfort you, to whisper in your spirit, I am not blind to your suffering. I am acting on your behalf. Be still. Be patient. The storm is not over. It's just about to change direction. You who bore the pain in silence, you are not forgotten. You were never invisible to the eyes of heaven. In fact, your silence became your strength. Your restraint became your testimony. And your trust in God has become the weapon that now moves unseen against those who harmed you. What if I told you that God is already fighting for you, that his justice is unfolding even now? Would you recognize it? The world may not see it yet, but if you pay attention, you will. Because when God takes revenge for your silent pain, he doesn't just deal with your enemies. He elevates your soul. He makes a spectacle not to shame you, but to show them the difference between those who walk with him and those who fight against his children. And so, if you've been wondering, is God doing something about the pain I never voiced? Then stay with me. Because now we will uncover the 7 clear signs that God is already taking revenge for your silent pain. Their peace has vanished while yours is being restored. There is a strange quietness in the soul of a person who once caused you pain, and they never speak of it, but it gnaws at them day and night. They wore peace as a disguise, pretending they were unbothered by the wounds they inflicted on you. They laughed when you cried, they celebrated while you were drowning in sorrow, and they walked away thinking their conscience would sleep forever. But there is something that human pride never understands. Peace is not something you steal from others without consequence. Peace is a divine gift, and when it is taken from the innocent by force, heaven takes notice. Do you feel your nights slowly becoming calmer? Have you noticed that your restless thoughts, once heavy like stones on your chest, are beginning to lift? This is not a coincidence. This is divine exchange in motion. The peace they robbed from you is being gently placed back into your soul by the hands of God Himself. And while you may not see it with your eyes, there is a silent chaos blooming inside their heart. Their mind, once proud and confident, becomes a battlefield of shadows. Their laughter grows hollow. Their smiles become strained. Even in the middle of crowds, they feel a loneliness they cannot explain. This is the quiet revenge of heaven. Scripture reminds us in Isaiah 48:22, "There is no peace, says the Lord, for the wicked." Understand this deeply. God does not allow the wicked to enjoy a counterfeit peace forever. He interrupts their illusions. He disturbs their false comfort. And He does it not with noise, but with unbearable silence. In the stillness of night, they begin to wrestle with thoughts they once buried. Memories of their cruelties surface like waves crashing upon a shore, and no matter how hard they try to suppress them, they rise again and again. You, on the other hand, are beginning to taste a new kind of rest. Do not mistake the stillness in your life as emptiness. It is the calm after the storm. It is the peace that surpasses all understanding, as promised in Philippians 4:7. God is carefully restoring the balance. He is pouring oil upon your wounds and letting the balm of heaven seep into every place that once bled in silence. Their restless nights are a reflection of your healing days. Every moment they spend tossing and turning is an answer to your tearful prayers. Every sleepless hour they endure is a repayment for the countless hours you spent weeping into your pillow, asking God if He saw your suffering. Oh, He saw it all. They thought they could escape the law of sowing and reaping, but Galatians 6:7 stands eternal. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will He also reap. The seeds of distress they planted in your heart are now growing in their own soil. But for you, beloved, God is replanting joy where sorrow once grew. He is nurturing hope where despair once took root. He is weaving tranquility into the fabric of your spirit, replacing every thread of fear and anxiety. Feel it. Receive it. As their peace vanishes like morning mist, yours is returning with the dawn. They begin to reap publicly what they did to you privately. There is a sacred satisfaction in watching the invisible scales of justice tip before your eyes. What was once done to you in secret, those hidden betrayals, those quiet wounds, those backroom lies whispered to assassinate your character, begins to unfold under the unblinking gaze of the public. This is no accident. This is the hand of God, lifting the veil and letting the world witness what He saw all along. For so long you carried the weight of private humiliation. You swallowed your pain in silence, while they paraded in false victory. You endured rumors, betrayals, and quiet manipulations that tore your heart apart behind closed doors. You wondered, will anyone ever know what they did to me? Now watch closely, because God is answering that question not with words, but with events that cannot be ignored. Luke 12:3 declares, "What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the ear in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs." Those who injured you thought their actions were safe, buried in secrecy. But divine justice has no hiding place. Slowly, like morning light creeping through closed curtains, their deeds are being exposed for all to see. And isn't it remarkable how God works? He does not need you to speak a word in your defense. He does not require you to prove your innocence. He makes their actions so visible that even their closest companions start to question them. Suddenly, eyes that were once blind to their deceit begin to see clearly. Ears that once welcomed their lies now grow deaf to their excuses. Their public undoing is not a spectacle for your entertainment. It is a testimony of your endurance. It is a divine demonstration that God is faithful to His promises. When He said in Deuteronomy 32:35, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," He meant it with the full weight of His justice. Now they walk into rooms and feel the cold stares of suspicion. They speak, and their words fall flat. The charm they once wielded like a weapon crumbles into dust. This is God turning their private sins into public lessons. You once sat in silence, feeling invisible beneath the weight of their betrayal. Now they sit beneath the glaring light of truth, exposed by the very God they ignored. This is not coincidence. It is consequence. Their harvest has arrived and the crop is bitter, and as they reap publicly what they sowed in darkness, you are vindicated without having to raise your voice. This is divine poetry. This is the justice of heaven unfolding, not behind closed doors, but in full view of the world. Doors closed for them that once opened easily. There was a time when every door seemed to open at their slightest touch. Opportunities flocked to them, people trusted them without question, and paths that others found difficult were smoothed beneath their feet. They walked with arrogance, as if favor belonged to them by birthright, as if success were their permanent companion. But they did not understand that every open door was a mercy, not a reward for their cruelty. They forgot that the God who opens doors can also close them. Revelation 3:7 reminds us, "What he opens no one can shut, and what he shuts no one can open." It is not their charm, their influence, nor their deception that truly opens doors. It is the unseen hand of God. And now in the quiet turning of seasons, you will see that hand move against them. They will approach the same doors they once entered so easily, only to find them sealed shut. They will knock, but there will be no answer. They will seek, but they will not find. This is not coincidence. This is consequence. These doors do not close with noise or spectacle. They close quietly yet firmly. They close in ways that are undeniable, leaving them bewildered and desperate. People who once admired them begin to withdraw. Opportunities that once came without effort now disappear like mist in the morning sun. The favor they once enjoyed dissolves, and they are left standing before closed gates, questioning where it all went wrong. Do you remember the doors they tried to close in your life? The opportunities they sabotaged? The blessings they tried to block? In their arrogance, they believed they could control not only their destiny, but yours as well. They manipulated situations to ensure you remained beneath them. They used influence to shut you out, thinking you would never rise. But what they failed to understand is that human hands cannot permanently close doors that God has ordained for you, nor can they keep open doors that God Himself chooses to shut. Now, as you watch, you will see a divine reversal unfolding. Isaiah 22:22 says, "I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open." God is using His sovereign key to turn the locks of their life. Where once they walked in and out freely, they now find barriers and walls they cannot climb. Their frustration grows. They push harder, but the resistance increases. They attempt to force their way forward, but every effort ends in failure. And in the quiet corners of their soul, they begin to understand, a terrible understanding, that the favor they enjoyed was never their own doing. It was borrowed grace, and they squandered it on pride and cruelty. Meanwhile, feel the shift in your own life. The doors that were once shut to you are now creaking open. Where you once faced rejection, you are now met with welcome. What was denied to you in your season of silent suffering is being released to you in your season of divine justice. God is not only closing their doors, He is opening yours. This is the beautiful irony of divine justice. The very doors they closed to hurt you are now being closed to them, and the very doors they tried to block for you are being opened by God's hand alone. No human can interfere with this process. No amount of pleading, manipulation, or effort can reverse what God has decreed. As they stand bewildered before locked doors, remember, this is the quiet sound of heaven's justice at work. People start seeing their true nature without you saying a word. There is a special kind of justice that requires no defense, no explanation, and no argument. It is the justice of exposure. The moment when people who once admired them begin to see them for who they truly are. The masks they wore so confidently begin to slip, and no matter how tightly they cling to their false image, it crumbles beneath the weight of truth. For so long you carried the burden of knowing their hidden cruelty. You saw the side of them that others were blind to. You endured the torment of being hurt by someone whom the world praised. It felt like an unbearable weight, to suffer in silence while others celebrated the very person causing your pain. But take heart, because God promised in Luke 8:17, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light." Now the light is rising. You no longer need to explain what they did. You no longer have to justify your wounds. God is turning the eyes of others toward them, removing the blindfolds that once shielded their true nature. Slowly, people begin to notice the cracks in their character, inconsistencies in their words, shadows in their actions. Things that once seemed charming now seem manipulative. Behaviors that were once excused are now questioned. And the beauty of this is that it happens without you lifting a finger. You don't need to speak ill of them. You don't need to defend yourself. Your silence becomes your shield, while God becomes your loudest advocate. Exodus 14:14 comforts you with these words, "The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still." Their false image begins to erode, not because of your accusations, but because of the divine revelation working behind the scenes. Those who once doubted you begin to wonder. Those who once followed them begin to distance themselves. Quietly, yet powerfully, the tide turns against them. They start to feel it too, the discomfort of knowing they can no longer hide behind charm and deception, the fear of realizing their true self is being revealed, not by their enemies, but by the hand of God Himself. Their attempts to salvage their image only accelerate their exposure. The more they try to cover their tracks, the clearer their footprints become. And you stand in the quiet dignity of vindication. Your integrity shines brighter as theirs fades. The contrast becomes undeniable. People begin to recognize the truth without you ever uttering a word in your own defense. This is the power of divine exposure. This is the justice of heaven, revealing what human eyes once could not see. Everything they took from you starts to crumble in their hands. There is a divine irony that cannot be escaped. What they took from you, thinking it would prosper in their possession, begins to rot in their grasp. They believed they could steal your opportunities, your joy, your peace, and wear them as their own crowns. They believed they could snatch the blessings that were meant for you and thrive while you suffered in silence. But they did not understand the nature of sacred things. What is stolen through wickedness never flourishes, it decays. Proverbs 10:2 declares, "Ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value." This truth is eternal. The gains they made by wounding you, by stepping over you, by stripping you of what was rightfully yours, are already withering. What once looked like triumph in their hands is quietly turning to ash. The positions they claimed, the relationships they manipulated, the peace they faked, all begin to unravel under the weight of their own deception. They once celebrated taking what you cherished. Perhaps they took your opportunities, your name, your reputation, or even your relationships. They wore their stolen victories like medals on their chest, boasting as if they had conquered the world. But what they failed to understand is this: stolen blessings come with hidden curses. What is not rightfully earned is never securely held. As the days pass, their hands grow weaker. They try to hold tightly to what they have taken, but it slips through their fingers like sand. They attempt to rebuild, to patch the cracks, to keep the illusion alive, but no matter how hard they work, decay spreads. Isaiah 30:12-13 warns, "Because you have rejected this word, this sin will become for you like a high wall, cracked and bulging, that collapses suddenly in an instant." And indeed, collapse is coming. They do not understand why their strength fails them. They do not see the invisible hand of God at work, quietly reclaiming what was taken from you. God, in His justice, allows the erosion to happen slowly at first, subtle, almost unnoticeable, so that they cannot escape it. He lets them watch as the things they prized most begin to betray them. Their trusted alliances falter, their apparent successes crumble, their false victories dissolve before their very eyes. What they took from you was never truly theirs to keep. It belonged to you by divine appointment, and while they celebrated prematurely, God was already writing the final chapter. Joel 2:25 gives you this promise: I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Not only does God let their ill-gotten gains fall apart, but He prepares to return to you what was taken, multiplied and purified. They begin to feel it, a gnawing fear that they are losing control. They panic in silence, unable to understand why their efforts to hold on to their gains are failing. Their strength fades, their influence wanes, and still they grasp in desperation, but to no avail. What they took from you is turning against them, becoming a burden instead of a blessing. You who once watched them strip away your peace and steal your joy, now witness the justice of heaven at work. You see their hands trembling as they try to preserve what is already lost. And you feel the winds of restoration blowing toward you, carrying with them the promises of God, unshaken and true. This is the unfolding of divine repayment. This is justice, not as man delivers, but as heaven decrees. You are elevated while they are silenced. There comes a time in the journey of the afflicted when God no longer simply restores what was lost. He elevates you far beyond where you would have stood had you not been wronged. This is the profound mystery of divine justice. It does not stop at repayment. It continues into promotion. What was meant to bury you becomes the very soil from which your destiny grows. Psalm 75:7 declares, "It is God who judges. He brings one down, He exalts another." And now, in the silent chambers of heaven's court, your elevation has been decreed. The very hands that once tried to suppress you are now powerless to halt your rise. Their voices, which once spread falsehoods against you, have been quieted, not by your efforts, but by the weight of truth and the hand of divine justice. For so long you walked with your head low, burdened by silent pain and unseen battles. You carried the shame of accusations, the heaviness of betrayal, the quiet tears shed in secret. You questioned if anyone saw your suffering, if your cries reached beyond the ceiling of your lonely room. But now, the time has come when God lifts your head. Psalm 3:3 reassures you. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. He is lifting you now. As you rise, they fall into silence. Their influence diminishes. The loud voices that once overshadowed your truth are reduced to whispers. They watch, but they cannot stop it. They hear of your progress, but they cannot hinder it. The favor of God has surrounded you like a fortress, and no human hand can breach its walls. They once believed they had the final word in your story. They thought their betrayal had written your ending. But God, the author of all things, had merely turned the page, and in this new chapter He writes your elevation in bold strokes for all to see. Isaiah 60:22 offers you this assurance. The least of you will become 1,000, the smallest a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time I will do this swiftly. Their silence is not just absence of noise, it is the echo of defeat. They have no defense against the truth of your rise. They cannot argue with your progress, nor can they deny the hand of God moving in your life. Every step you take upward silences another accusation, another lie, another scheme that once sought to destroy you. Feel the shift beneath your feet. What once felt like sinking sand is now solid rock. The ground beneath you is steady, built not by human approval, but by divine appointment. You are rising not by accident, but by destiny. Your story is becoming a testimony not just of survival, but of glorious elevation. And as you ascend, remember this truth. God is not only lifting you, He is silencing every voice that once sought to tear you down. They watch in quiet despair as you move forward, unable to stop what heaven has ordained. This is your moment of divine elevation. This is the silent fall of your enemy. God sends you blessings they can't stop or touch. There is a moment in the life of the wounded where heaven itself begins to answer with a force that no human hand can restrain. It is as though the gates of God's abundance are flung wide open, and from them flows a flood of blessings so vast, so undeniable, that not even the people who tried to block your path can do anything to stop it. The very ones who thought they could confine you within their traps are now helpless, forced to watch as you are surrounded by the goodness of God. For the longest time, they tried to hinder you. They placed obstacles in your way, hoping you would fall and never rise again. They whispered against you in secret, thinking their words would chain your destiny. They manipulated circumstances, closing doors before you could reach them. But what they did not understand is this: blessings that come from God are not dictated by human permission. No one can intercept what heaven has prepared for you. James 1:17 reminds us, "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows." Your blessings are not forged by the hands of men. They are crafted by the eternal hand of God, and no human scheme has the power to reach into heaven's storehouse and steal what has been marked with your name. They may have tried to delay your progress, but they could never deny your destiny. Now, you begin to see the evidence of God's hand moving openly in your life. Opportunities arise from places you never expected. Provision comes not from the sources you once depended upon, but from divine appointments orchestrated by God Himself. What you thought was lost forever returns, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Luke 6:38 paints this picture vividly. "Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap." What they tried to hold back is now being released with multiplied force. Blessings flow to you with a power they cannot grasp, because they were never the source to begin with. They were only spectators, not the architects of your favor. And what is more powerful than this is the helplessness they feel in the face of your rising blessings. They watch from the sidelines, unable to intervene, unable to stop the torrent of God's goodness that surrounds you. Their envy grows cold in their hearts as they realize they are witnessing the fulfillment of divine promises they once mocked. They cannot silence the voices that celebrate you now. They cannot reverse the favor that marks your life. They cannot extinguish the light that God has ignited within you. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you." This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord. Your inheritance is unfolding before their very eyes, and it is untouchable. They see the blessings, but they cannot access them. They feel the weight of their own emptiness as your life fills with abundance. The very tables they once tried to pull out from under you are now set by God Himself, and your cup overflows. Psalm 23:5 whispers this truth to your heart. "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows." Your elevation is not merely a private matter. It becomes a public testimony. God blesses you openly in ways that silence every doubt and erase every lie. The favor of the Lord becomes your shield, and the blessings of heaven become your banner. What they once tried to curse, God has blessed. What they tried to bury, God has raised. What they tried to delay, God has accelerated. There is a divine acceleration upon your life now, a momentum that no human opposition can halt. The speed at which doors open, paths clear, and opportunities arise defies natural explanation because it is not natural. It is supernatural. They try to comprehend it, but they cannot. They try to understand how you continue to rise, how you continue to flourish, but the answer lies beyond their reach. The blessing on your life is not of this world, and therefore it cannot be stopped by anything in this world. This is the beauty of divine justice. This is the testimony of those who have suffered in silence, who have cried out in secret, who have trusted God when there seemed to be no hope left. Now your trust is being rewarded openly. Now your patience is bearing fruit. Now your silent prayers are echoing in the chambers of heaven, and the answers are raining down upon you like showers in a dry land. Isaiah 41:10 breathes courage into your soul. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. You are being upheld. You are being strengthened, and the blessings being poured into your life are beyond the reach of those who tried to harm you. Their hands are too short to steal from the hand of God. Their strategies are too weak to interfere with divine will. Their jealousy is too powerless to extinguish the flame of your favor. So watch with peaceful eyes and a steady heart as God sends blessings they cannot touch. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord manifest in your life. As you reach the end of this message, I want you to pause for a moment and breathe. Really breathe. Allow yourself to feel the weight of everything you have carried, but now let it begin to lift. For what you have just heard is not mere words strung together to comfort you. It is the very evidence that heaven has been watching, recording, and responding to the silent cries you thought had gone unnoticed. There is no wound too deep that escapes the gaze of God, no injustice too small that heaven overlooks. Every tear you shed in the shadows has been counted. Every prayer you whispered in exhaustion has been written in the records of eternity. And now you stand at the threshold of a divine turning point. The very people who believed they had won by causing your pain are beginning to realize they were mistaken. They thought they had silenced you forever, but God has only silenced them. They believed they could steal from you without consequence, but the truth is, they were robbing themselves of peace, of favor, of the very mercy they once enjoyed. And as for you, you are not only rising, you are soaring, not because of your own strength, but because the everlasting arms of God are lifting you higher than your enemies ever imagined. He is taking you from the pit to the palace, from sorrow to songs of victory, from silent suffering to unstoppable rejoicing. The same God who allowed your test is now writing your testimony. You see, God doesn't simply restore what was lost, He multiplies it. He doesn't just vindicate you in private, He elevates you in public. The days of you questioning your worth are ending. The nights of silent tears are over. God is preparing a feast in your honor, and He is making sure your enemies have the front row seat, not to humiliate them by your hands, but to let them witness what divine justice truly looks like. This is your moment to hold your head high, not with arrogance, but with holy confidence. For you have been carried through fire, and you are coming out without even the scent of smoke on you. Your scars are not signs of defeat, they are seals of survival. They are the evidence that you were chosen to endure, and now you are chosen to flourish. Remember always, no scheme of man can outwit the plans of God. No darkness can swallow the light of His favor. No curse spoken over you can override the blessings written by His hand. He is faithful to finish what He has started in you, and His justice will be perfect in its time. So walk forward now, not with fear, but with faith. Look not at what they have done, but at what God is doing. The winds have shifted, the battle has turned, and you, beloved, are stepping into the victory that was written for you from the very beginning. Your silent pain was never ignored. Your quiet endurance was never wasted, and your tears were not in vain, because the God of heaven is moving, and His justice is already unfolding before your eyes. The battle is His, the victory is yours, and the glory belongs to God.